Alright, so here we have a Sylvania All-American 5 AM radio as I found it. I just picked it up at a antiques place for about 10 bucks. Looks like it might clean up pretty good. We'll just have to see what kind of shape it's in and test it out and see what we can get. Alright, so taking the back off, as we can see, pretty dirty in there, but everything looks to be in pretty good shape other than the tube shield fell off here. So we'll get it apart and see what's inside. Alright, let's see what we got here. Speaker looks to be in pretty good shape. Tuning condenser looks pretty clean, but lots of dust. Let's see what we got underneath. Okay, looks all original. Definitely, I think I'm gonna get rid of these old wax capacitors and this electrolytic. I don't like really even testing them until they're replaced, because too often these things can fail and cause a lot of problems. Other than that, we'll check out the resistors, make sure they're in tolerance, and see where we're at from there. Alright, just got this firecracker capacitor out, and it's most likely bad. And this across the line capacitor really looks like trouble, so that'll go. It's a shame. This power cord is actually very pliable and still in really good shape, but it doesn't have a polarized end on it, and that would be a no-no. Even though we have a pretty well sealed radio, I still like to change them around so they're safe and put a polarized plug on them. So we'll go do that, we'll get this replaced, and then we'll be right back. Okay, now we're back. We got some of this work done. Got the electrolytics put in, got all the paper and wax capacitors replaced, and did do some rerouting a little bit. This one capacitor here originally went over to here, which is the ground point, which is the same as this point. I'm routed it over to here, take some of the clutter out. I put in a polarized plug. Now this is not a perfect fix, and that is because this is the neutral line right here, and as you notice, it's going through the switch. Ultimately, you would want to see the hot to go through the switch and the neutral to go to the, stay at ground all the time. But the amount of rerouting of the wire and so forth would just been too much. So this is much better than what we had, and it is pretty safe. This is an all plastic case. It's pretty well insulated, so I think we're going to be okay with that. Any of the caps that went across the line here and here, we replaced those with XY capacitors, safety capacitors. A couple of the resistors were way out of tolerance. I got those replaced. These aren't perfect, but they're close enough. I don't think they're going to affect anything. And I think the next thing to do is let's do a power up and see what we get. Okay, we're all set up here. Got everything on the bench. Plugged into here, which is my isolation transformer slash variac. There it is. And what we're going to do now is turn this thing on. I did check the tubes, and the 12BA6 IF amplifier was bad, so I had a spare, so I threw that in, and I think we're ready to do a live power on test. So here we go. Turn it on, put a couple of volts on there, and see what the meter does here. So far, so good. Not drawing any current at all, hardly. And as you can see, we're up around 100 volts or so. And I'm hearing a little bit of sound.
Mechanicsburg tomorrow. There are meetings this weekend with the PIAA and some of their committees.
Now, how would that affect schools?
Not bad.
We will talk about that in an upcoming
Not
show.
bad at all.
Try to get Bob on this program.
Now you got to remember, I live on the side of the hill, towards the bottom of the hill, and we are currently in the basement. So being able to pull in some stations in those conditions, I think we're doing pretty good. We'll obviously go through and check the alignment here, but I think it sounds like it's pretty close as it is. So we'll get some test equipment hooked up here in a little bit. We'll do our alignment, and I did download the service manual for this. And looking here, I think there is a procedure. Let's see what we got.
All single way, double way, and triple way, mostly, but not anymore. But it would change if the 6 classification format was put in place.
If they go to 6 classes, one thing that
There
people
we go.
need to understand is the PIAA is always
Step
going to
2 starting.
number of schools in each class.
So let's see.
And this proposal, and you're right on
That's going to be crazy.
Here we go. Alignment procedure.
Right now, there are some
Page 1, page 2. Looks pretty simple.
teams per class. Most states, it's around
And
100.
we'll follow the procedure, and then maybe we'll try some other things while we're here. Alright, we'll be right back. Okay, here we are. And we got everything set up. I'm just using this signal generator today. It's just a basic RF generator. I can't stand the 1 kilohertz tone because it's just too high pitched. So I have it hooked through this over to my audio generator, and I'm modulating it with just under 400 hertz, which is a lot easier on my ears. So, got my analog meter hooked up here, the senior voltometer, and let's see if we can get something to come in here. It's saying to set the variable tuning capacitor to a point near 1 kilocycle where no signals are heard, and I'm somewhere around there. Tune the amplitude modulated signal generator to 455 kc. Connect the generator output leads to negative B+, and through a 0.1 microfarad capacitor right there to pin 7. And as you can see, that is where we are. Okay. That being said, let's bring this up and see. Hold on a second. Oh, that's way too much. Come on, low. Okay. I can tell you we already have a problem here. You hear that sound? You hear that sound? I am on the minimum output. My attenuator's cranked all the way down, and we still got way too much signal. So, we're going to try something a little bit different here. We're going to try to remove this, and we're going to try to couple it through the antenna because I'm really thinking we're getting way too much signal. So let's see what we can do. We'll come back. Okay, let's turn this down for a minute. Alright, it was that idiot thing. Sometimes that idiot thing happens, and it happened this time. I actually had the modulation cranked way up too high, and that's what was causing the distortion. So now that I turned that down, and I turned my signal way down, I'm now where I need to be. I like to hear a little bit of static, because I know I'm not working the AVC. And then I can go up here, check the meter out. I like to get it on a number here so I can work at it. And it says adjust T1 and T2 by first adjusting the cores from the bottom and then the top. So if I look here, T1 is the back of the speaker, T2 is towards the front. So now comes the fun part. Getting the tool inside to be able to adjust. Alright, let's see what we got here. Yeah. Kids, don't try this at home. Okay, that feels like we got something. As usual, the plastic tool doesn't work. The plastic tool never works. And everybody says don't put metal tools in because it affects the signal and all these good things, but guess what? We don't have much choice. Let's see what else we have here. Okay. Sometimes this one will go in, and sometimes it will save the day. So let's see. Nope. Oh, maybe, maybe. Oh, yes. Okay. There we go. There, it was pretty peaked. Pretty close. Alright, let's try this one. There it is. Pretty much where we left it. Okay, now let's try the tops. As the other ones, these guys are right on here. That's it. As you can see, this radio was peaked pretty much right where it was. Didn't really have to move it very much. Okay, let's do the RF alignment. Turn variable tuning capacitor to counterclockwise minimum frequency setting. Counterclockwise. That would be this way. Next page. Tune generator connected as above to 1650. Alright. So, we want to go up here, and we want to go up 15, 16, 1650 is right about there. Of course, this isn't the most accurate meter on signal generator on Earth, but it works. Okay, adjust the oscillator trimmer C4. C4 is right here, so we'll give it a shot. See what we get. Really touchy with one hand. There it comes. There we go. Okay. There's that one. Alright. Connect the generator to a Hazeltine or Hazeltine loop. That would be this thing here that I'm using. One of these. So let's get our Hazeltine loop. And I've never heard of it called a Hazeltine loop before. But who am I to argue? There we go. 1450. So we're going to go, there's 15, 1450. Right about there. As you can see, 1450. Right there. Okay. Tune receiver to 1450 kc. By the way, you hear that sound going? That is actually coming from the standby of my arbitrary waveform generator. Ask me how long it took to find that one out. Anyways, antenna trimmer C2. Okay, come back here and see how this works.
Phil Mickelson's gambling debt. And the coverage brought to you by Smirk, the lemonade sarcastic.
Instead of a president who seeks to go to the United Nations to end
picking up a lot of interference. Who knows what it's from?
Do a simple IRA, you were going to put $60,000 for the IRS. There's no getting around it. Instead, you put a lot more, put a majority of that money to yourself and pay a lot less money to the IRS.
Well, there we are. The one thing I don't like about down here is we don't have very many music stations on AM. So we're stuck with talk radio, and then being in the basement just makes it a little bit worse because what few stations there are, that gets thinned out from being down here. So anyhow, there it is. I'll probably just wipe this down a little bit and clean the case a little bit, and this one will be ready to go on the shelf. Hope you enjoyed my first restoration video. Take care.